I'm excited. Welcome to Brother from Another, Michael Holley, Terrika Foster-Brasby. We're feeling good. Terrika, how you doing? How are you?
I'm doing great. Although it's a really rainy morning here in Connecticut, I'm doing great.
Okay. Rainy morning in Connecticut. Connecticut, I believe, is in the United States.
Yep.
I'm in Boston, Massachusetts, also a part of the United States. We are broadcasting from the United States. And the great thing about this country, I understand, innocent until proven guilty. You go into any kind of court system, any kind of allegations. You can't just say, hey, he did it, guilty. There's a process here. So I know that. I'm going to keep that in mind. However, let me start with a public service announcement. Here. Rashee Rice, get thine head out of thine ass. Immediately. Please. Like Terrika, I should have known. Before the brother was driving 119 miles per hour on the highway, racing somebody who was driving 116. So he's at 119. His partner's at 116 on the highway, dodging in and out of cars. I should have known before that moment that he wasn't quite right, because if you remember, in the Super Bowl, Niners, Chiefs, last play of regulation, he gets in Patrick Mahomes' face. Rashee Rice, you don't remember this? He got in Mahomes' face saying, hey man, I was open. You got in Mahomes' face, you got in your meal ticket's face saying he should have thrown you the football because you were open. Now you were right. He was open, but you're also wrong, because you can't go at the king. You can't go at Patrick Mahomes. So I should have known he didn't have good sense then. That was clue number one. Clue number two is driving 119 miles per hour on the highway. Clue number three is crashing and leaving the scene of the crime. Clue number four, allegedly, after all this nonsense, in the club, acting a fool. I don't know if he hit anybody or not. There's some dispute there. Terrika, if you saw somebody outside your beautiful home in Connecticut, if you saw somebody outside just torching $6 million, just burning $6 million, you'd be like, hold on, first of all, I got bills, so let me get that. Is Terrika's sound on? Is her sound on?
My sound is on.
Okay,
my sound is on, and I'm just as confused as you are, because when I think of everything that Rashee Rice has done, in my mind, I'm just like, you don't like to get paid. You don't like to get paid. You clearly don't. Money is not something that moved you. It's not something that motivates you. And it's like there are few people like you in the world, but you are one of them, because you are blowing your chance at forever being rich right now. You're blowing it. You're blowing it. It doesn't make any sense how people can be so privileged and likes to just diminish their privilege by doing stupid stuff. Stupid stuff like speeding unnecessarily on a highway in a car that nobody else is going to own but you. Like you're not even inconspicuous with the stupid stuff you do. You just out here open with it, right? I don't get it. I will never understand it. And whatever punishment comes Rashee Rice's way, he will be deserving of it. Now, again, innocent until proven guilty. So if you did it, you will be deserving of the punishment that you receive.
And I'll say this, Terrika, you should be a songwriter, because somewhere there should be a lyric in a song that says, you're not even inconspicuous with the stupid stuff that you do. I mean, not even. Back in the day, that's Erykah, that's a Baduism. I could hear Erykah Badu just kind of singing something like that. That would
you know how it is. You know how it is.
Yeah.
If we were doing stupid stuff, we would at least, back in our day, when we was doing stupid stuff, we didn't want nobody to know we was doing it. You know what I mean? We would try to hide it. We were happy there was no social media. Nobody could catch us. Nobody could tell on us. It was secrets between you and the crew that you was with. Now, You just all out in the open doing stupid stuff. Everybody know what you're doing. I don't understand it.
All right. Well, speaking of all out in the open, we go from a PSA to TSA. Let's go to TSA. Let's talk about travel. Let's talk about the WNBA. And finally, now it just seemed the other day, the commissioner, when asked about travel, because it's funny. Now you gotta set me right here. You know the WNBA better than anybody. So it's funny, every time the commissioner, Kathy Engelberg, has talked about travel with the WNBA, it's like, no, I'm not gonna do that. We're no chartered travel. Because for those who don't know, WNBA teams, if it's not the playoffs, if it's not back-to-backs, they travel commercially. And so you could be in TF Green Airport in Providence, Logan Airport in Boston, Hartford, I don't know the name of the airport in Hartford, but even in Hartford, and here you are. There are WNBA players just sitting around waiting for their flights, and it's unusual to see. It doesn't happen with NBA teams, and it's a safety issue as well, as we saw last year with Brittney Griner being trolled as she walked through the airport with very limited, if any, security around her. So the commissioner said, I'm not going to do that. It just doesn't cost that much. It costs too much money, and we're already spending. And we know teams have been fined. I know the New York Liberty tried to do it in 2021, and they were fined for chartering flights because it was seen as a competitive advantage over teams that weren't doing it. Now, all of a sudden, Terrika, the commissioner at an event says, hey, this thing could happen as soon as this year. Tell me, one, I got no problems with it. It should have happened 5 years ago. Yeah. But two, what changed? Who got in her ear? What happened? Tell me about this.
Well, you say all of a sudden, and that's where I'm like, is it really all of a sudden? Or is it once there was a viral video of a certain someone walking through an airport with security? Ooh. And this is to say this. I am thrilled that charter flights are now a thing. You are right. There have been multiple organizations that have wanted to charter flights for their team. There have been multiple conversations among general managers and others, and team presidents. I mean, can you imagine? You think Mark Davis hasn't been wanting to give the two-time back-to-back WNBA reigning champions a charter flight? You think that, Clara and Josiah in New York haven't wanted to give their team charter flights? Like, this is something that they've been wanting and asking to do forever. Teams have talked about how it is detrimental to their health, their rehab, their recovery, their day-to-day, things like that, that makes it so much easier and better for them when they have the ability to be on chartered flights. And you even mentioned it. Brittney Griner literally was being trolled, was being harassed. And granted, they did offer her charter flights, but I mean, what teammate do you know is going to take a charter flight and let their team stay in Delta? Like, who's going to do that, right? So I say all that to say there are so many reasons in conversations, and majority of the time it had been money. It had been competitive advantage, whatever that means. But recently, we have so seen the impact of the new stars in the WNBA. They're already being chartered. Quite literally, Angel was in Chicago on Monday night, and on Tuesday she's at the Met Gala, or like whatever day it was. She's being chartered to the Met Gala, only to get back tomorrow night to Chicago to be able to catch a game. And so I'm saying all of this to say that these women have become accustomed to being treated a certain type of way, number one. But number two, with the increase in NIL that they were receiving in college, with the investment that companies are putting in endorsements and things like that into these players, they're going to want to protect their investment. So they are going to want to add whatever is necessary in order to ensure that they have the comfort that's needed, that they have the luxury that they so rightfully deserve. So it is, in fact, a win for the entire WNBA that we are getting these charter flights. However, I'm also going to point out that it is not lost on me that we did not instantly get this $25 million that is going to cost over the next 2 years until we started seeing viral videos of certain stars walking through the airport with security because they flying commercial. How long do you think that's going to last? How long do you think it's going to be acceptable that we see these kinds of things happening? It wasn't going to be. And rumor on the street is that some general managers had no idea that this was going to happen. Rumor has it there were some who were finding out at the same time that the announcement was made, which I find to be very interesting. So if that is indeed the case, if that is indeed true, then there are a lot of conversations behind closed doors that need to happen in order to ensure that the entire league is on one accord. But again, whether this is the reason, whether it's the investment reason, there are players who fought for years to get charter flights and they finally have it. And so overall, this is great for the league.
You know, it's so interesting I have so many thoughts about the WNBA because, you know, compared to some of the other leagues that have been around for a while, I mean, you look at the NFL, the NHL, like some teams in the NHL, like here in Boston, the Bruins are celebrating their centennial season. So you're around for 100 years. Yeah, that's longevity. But if you have somebody who's a passionate hockey fan who goes to the NHL and says, hey, you should change this, or a bunch of players say, you should change this, NHL, I'm like, listen, man, we've been around for so long. I'm like, okay, sit down. we ain't got to listen to you. And so there's something about having legacy that you've been around and your grandmother and your great-grandmother saw these teams. On the flip side, you know, with the WNBA has not been around for 100 years or even 50 years. Yeah. So, Terrika, believe it, you probably don't look at yourself this way, but if you have strong commentary about the WNBA, they'll listen to you. I mean, you're a respected voice. They'll listen to players. It is still young enough where people can come in, critics can come in and say, you should be doing this, and the league will listen. That's the good part about it. The bad part about it, I guess, is it takes certain people, it takes certain optics for the league to do the right thing. And I just, we gotta have a family conversation about that the WNBA.
We do. And you hit the nail on the head, optics. So it's not to say this is truly how you feel or this is the true motives. It's the optics. It looks bad that you had a national and international star who could not get her team, who could not move the needle to get charter flights. It looks bad that was a situation in 2023, but in 2024, it's like almost instantly, you know what? We need charter flights. The optics look bad. Again, I'm not assuming anything. I wasn't in the room. I didn't have a stake in the conversation. So albeit for me to say this is what moved the needle. Maybe it did, maybe it didn't. But I am saying the optics of it look crazy, and people wonder why we continue to invoke and talk about race, because the optics make it look that way. That's all I mean. Now, at the same time, I'm just trying to figure out, can I hop up on one of these charter flights? You know what I'm saying? I'm a reporter for a team, Connecticut. When we got to be out, make sure your girl got a seat is all I'm saying. Listen, because it's been a long time coming. But here's another point that you made that I think is really incredible, that people have the ability to move the needle based off influence, based off of how popular this sport has become over the last even just 6 months, right? Women's basketball, the surge. I mean, we've seen it over the last year, but just the last 6 months have been crazy. And there was a situation last week in which there was a basketball game that people wanted to see, which was Angel Reese's debut and Kamilla Cardoso's debut. and it was not being broadcast anywhere. And so a fan, Allie, decided to go live on her Twitter page, on her X page, and it garnered 2 million views. So, of course, because of that, on Tuesday night, Chicago's game against the Liberty, which was not scheduled to be broadcast, actually ended up being broadcasted. And so, again, to your point about the league is young enough to be smart enough to catch on to what people are to pick up what people are putting down. And they were able to broadcast that game last night. And I love that. Sometimes social media works the best. And the outrage that was felt and the ability of this fan, Allie, who's a Minnesota Lynx fan, to go live just kind of further shows you where we are with women's basketball and with the WNBA. The WNBA cannot continue to operate in that small-minded mindset that they had been operating to prior to this season, because you've got way too many stars and have now accumulated the fan base that you've been wanting to accumulate. So you have got to give them what they want. People want to see these women play basketball now. You can't afford to only pick and choose what basketball games you want to air, especially when it's a game that entails the 2023 and 2024 national champions.
Right. So look, Terrika, I'll just tell you, I will never try to mislead the people. I will tell you about my strengths and tell you all about my flaws and my hypocritical stances, all that. I'll do that all day long. I am just here. I am real. This is who I am. So I will tell you, if I were running a business, it wouldn't be running in the red. It would barely be operating in the black. It'd be barely operating in the black. Why? Because I feel like I get really frustrated when people cheap out. I get really frustrated when the details are not taken care of. So I want to pay for it. I want to pay for it, okay? I would have paid for charter flights a long time ago. I would have made sure we got the best this, we got the best that, we got the best travel, we got the best food, we got the best staff. I'm paying for it. That's just the way. And so the business would be in trouble all the time. Like, damn, hey, boss, could you cut a corner here? Like, no, hell no, I'm not cutting corners. I want the best. So this is where I'm going with this. The reason the fan had to stream the game, the reason we had to follow the fan stream is because the freaking app didn't work. Now, I'm sorry. Now, you ain't that young, WNBA. You ain't 5 years old. You're old enough to know better. Your app's not working. So you say that we go to the WNBA app, we're trying to see the Chicago sky. We're trying to see Angel Reese. Everybody's watching you. Get it together. What's up with your tech? Get the IT people on it.
Oh, I'm going to get you one better. I'm going to go one better. It was a mistake that it was even advertised that it was going to be in the app, because the game was not broadcast anywhere, to the point where Cheryl Reeve herself had to say, hey, I hope fans come out and watch the game because it's not going to be seen on television anywhere. Now, if you know Cheryl Reeve, like I know Cheryl Reeve ain't on Twitter. It ain't on X, just making comments and talking about stuff. Like, that's just not her MO. So for her to come out and say something, that's how you know it's bad. Like, people are granted grace and they get to make mistakes. But in 29, 28 years of this organization, and with us being able to see how this was going to go based off of what we've witnessed over the last 2 years in women's college basketball, you had to have known that that top 10 draft picks were going to want to be seen on television. And I am only hoping that with the new TV deals coming up, that there is some conversation around preseason. For the NBA, you can watch preseason on the NBA app. You can watch all their games on NBA TV. There is not a team or fan base that cannot see their preseason matchups. Do I personally want to see every preseason game? Absolutely not. But who am I to tell a fan that they shouldn't have access to see every preseason game if that's what they want? WNBA got to get it together.
So this is a good time for the league, I would say, just to have several, not that I'm asking for more meetings, because I think most meetings could be like 35, 40 minutes. I really do. I think most meetings.
Send it an email.
Right.
Can you send it an email?
Yeah. And the email, keep them short. Keep them short. When I see like multiple, when I see these long, I'm like, okay, what's the ask? I mean, just boil the thing down. Get it down to like 2 sentences.
Get to it.
What do we want? Okay, not that I'm asking for more meetings, but maybe they should have, this is the time where you got to be ready. Sometimes the public is ready before you are. Sometimes the public has a demand that exceeds your expectations for what's possible. And I think that's what's happening right now in the WNBA. So I'm like, oh yeah, Caitlin Clark, there's going to be renewed interest. Oh no, it's more than renewed interest. It's a spike. Oh, Angel Reese and oh, this is great. And oh, it's on. And it didn't just start. I mean, look, Caitlin Clark, and I'll never take anything away from her. Caitlin Clark is a part of the movement in a lot of ways, one of the major faces of this movement. But I felt it last summer when we had the construction of Super Team 2, or two super teams. We got the Aces. They'd already won the year before, now they get better. Then the Liberty, here come the Liberty, they got their own super team, and now we have the Liberty and the Aces in the WNBA finals. Okay, I mean, we were all about that. I thought that was awesome. So it was coming, but now it's like an avalanche, and I just think the league has to be ready with its infrastructure. The league has to be ready with its tech. The league has to be ready with its vision. Think bigger. Yes. I'm saying think bigger, Terrika, because something special is happening here.
That's absolutely right. And I mean, that's the bottom line, is that this league has always had stars, right? Like Maya Moore, star, Candace Parker, star, Asia Wilson, star, Stewie, Brianna Stewart. Like this league has always had stars, but there are different level of stardom. And what I mean by that is not necessarily talent or name or anything like that. I just mean the generations are different, right? And so what made you popular may not be the same as what makes other people popular. And in this day and age, the use of social media and people's social media presence and how they have inundated themselves in the culture makes them a little different kind of star than just the stars that we've seen in the past who were elevated because not only did they play basketball well, but they had other things that brought them public notoriety. And so when I look at the stars of today and I see how much they've utilized TikTok, being in music videos, being in, having the opportunity to be in commercials that our other stars didn't start to see until later in their career and things like that. So I say all that to say the stardom that comes along with this generation brings a lot more eyes for different reasons. I mean, we even saw this in the NFL. I was one that was completely tired of seeing Taylor Swift on my TV every 2 days, but I've also been an NFL fan for 30 years. For some of the newer fans, it was like bringing a new demographic of people to this sport because they loved Taylor and then begin to love some other things about football. We're seeing that in women's basketball. Like, it is what it is. Angel Reese fans, Kamilla Cardoso fans, Caitlin Clark fans, Cameron Brink fans, Rakia Jackson fans, all of these people are bringing their fan base with them. I love it. And what's great about it is what we're going to see.
There's room under the tent for everybody.
Exactly. But to your point, they're going to have to think bigger because these fans that are coming, they're coming with an expectation. And that might be different than the fans before that came to the league. Like they kind of came and assimilated a little bit. These fans are coming and they're like, nah, we want what we want. We want to see our players have this, that, and the third. And they're bringing that energy. You got to figure out a way to match that energy if you're the WNBA. But what I am going to love the most is the fans that are going to come to watch their player and stay because everyone else is balling. When we look back to that debut last week between Dallas and Indiana, I mean, you might have came for Caitlin Clark and she had an incredible debut, 21 points, 5 of 13 from 3. But, honey, Arike Ngumbawale said, hold my beer. I'm going to remind y'all I'm gonna remind y'all who I am and who I be. And that's what I'm talking about. Like, that's what you're going to get now. And this is why the league has to expand their vision, because you're gonna get a lot of new fans that's coming. But the girls that's been there, they're gonna remind y'all why they are WNBA players and stars. And you gotta be prepared for all of that.
I'm gonna tell you, I'm gonna put the mirror up on sports journalism and say, we all got to expand our vision. We all got to up our games, because let's get to the cringe story. The cringe. And that's being nice. Cringe is being nice. I didn't think cringe. I thought creepy. For those who missed it, Gregg Doyel, columnist. Now think about this. The columnist for the Indianapolis Star. And look, I know we're in a new era of sports journalism where it's not just, hey, print people over there and radio people over there and TV, linear TV. We got podcasts, we got streamers, we've got multimedia people. Like that's what we all do. That's what most of us do in this business. We're not just doing one thing. But back in the day, you're a sports columnist for the papers like the Indianapolis Star and the Chicago Tribune and Sun-Times, Boston Globe, Dallas Morning News, LA Times. Like, you're the sports columnist. You are the voice. I mean, you are the voice of the city. That is a big position. And Gregg Doyel, Indianapolis Star, Indy Star sports columnist, is not allowed to cover Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever. He can't be there in person. It's almost like it really isn't. It's like a creep thing. Like, listen, if we see you around the building, if we see you around, we gonna call. Like, you can't be within 200 yards, bro. Like, he can't cover. The leading media person in the city can't cover the leading star in the city. Why can't he do that? Well, take a listen to this, and then we'll talk about it on the other side. Here's Gregg Doyel at a Caitlin Clark introductory press conference.
Hi, Caitlin. Gregg Doyel, Indy Star. Real quick, let me do this.
You like that?
I like that you're here. I like that you're here.
I do that at my family after every game, so
okay,
it's
well, let's
cool.
Start doing it to me, and we'll get along just fine. You just were given the keys to that. What are you going to do with it?
What am I going to do with them? Hopefully, we're going to win a lot of games to start. She's going to help us out with that.
My man puts up the heart. He puts up the little Caitlin Clark at a press conference, then says, do that to me. Like, she said, okay, I can't, the word creep, I just can't get away from the word creepy, because Terrika, she said, I do that to my family. To my family. You're not my family. Okay, I do that to my family. And then he says, well, you do it to me. What are you suggesting? What are you saying? What is wrong with you?
Even if you wanted to ask her about it, just ask her about, like, why not just say, hey, we noticed that at the end of every game, you throw up a heart symbol. Can you explain to us what that means? Or can you explain to us why you do? If you wanted to know why, just ask. Like, you are a weirdo. That's weirdo energy.
But you know, it's worse. It's worse than that, though. It's worse than being. Yeah, it is. It is a weirdo thing. But you think about, and this is where he's got to understand, because I saw him tweet. He was writing, hey, I went through anger and then some kind of some denial, and then I've kind of accept that I'm part of the problem. Yes, you're part of the problem. The reason you're part of the problem is something that is old as the country itself. Is sexism. It's just sexism, and you got to address it. Now, think about any athlete who does a thing. So if it's Steph Curry, with the night, or pointing to the sky. Any athlete who has something, LeBron James, a certain dance or a certain symbol after a big play that they do, a routine over and over, whether it's like KG before every game used to run down and put his head on the stanchion and then pound his chest. And a reporter wouldn't do that. A male or female reporter would go to a press conference and do that thing to that player because you would be seen as a clown or a fool. Okay, you wouldn't do it. You wouldn't think to do it because you say, I know I respect my position too much, and I also respect their position. Mm-hmm. What you're saying here, Gregg Doyel's case is, maybe you respect your position, but you don't respect hers. You think it's something different. You think it's different than professional sports. You think it's just a game, or you think it's cute. And so you're approaching it, your whole mindset is wrong. And this is not just a Gregg Doyel problem. This is a problem with many mainstream media members who are now covering women's basketball, especially at the professional level. This is pro basketball. The coaches are the coaches are smart. The coaches are at a different level. These are not just, I'm a woman and I just want to work with young girls. No. These are adults. These are pros. They study it. It's their craft. Everything that they do kind of comes back to their craft. So things that they eat, the way that they train, what they study, just like males. However, some people haven't gotten the memo yet. Nope. Terrika, some people haven't gotten the memo.
You're absolutely correct. And I'm going to take it a step further and say, this is why mainstream media needs to hire and needs to attain more professional writers who have been in the WNBA game for a long time now. I say that because what we're doing is we're taking folks just because they write for the Indianapolis Star or whoever, we're taking folks and we're just throwing them in. So you don't know the culture of the WNBA. You don't know the players of the WNBA. You don't know the other media members who've been covering the WNBA for a long time, or even regularly enough to have gained the respect of WNBA players, coaches, and league executives. You don't know any of this. And this is the problem. We're going to get half stories. You're going to get half, you're not going to get the quality of work that you have received with grassroots organizations and grassroots writers who have built their name in the trenches of covering the WNBA. Because it's so popular now, you just want to throw anybody in there. You want to throw everybody in. And there are two people who I know who work in Indianapolis who have been covering Fever basketball long enough to where Gregg Doyel didn't even need to be there. Why is he even here? He's here because he's the leading name, because he's the leading voice, because he's the main thing, right? But the main thing ain't gave a damn about the Indiana Fever and the existence of the Indiana Fever. So why now? To me, that's problematic. I love the fact that more outlets are going to start paying attention and covering the WNBA, but they absolutely need to ensure that the people that are doing it on their behalf are people who have been and care about the sport. And if that means you need to go and hire the person who's been out here covering it for her blog for the last 15 years, but has done so effectively, efficiently, and has gained and garnered the respect of her WNBA peers, players, and league executives, then that's who you need to get. And I don't understand how that's so difficult. There are some writers, there are some reporters, there are some people who have been waiting for this sport to get to a place where the work that they've put in to ensure that their coverage is available, they've been waiting for these opportunities. And instead, you just gonna throw them to anybody just because. You're just gonna throw it to anybody. I've never seen Gregg Doyel at a Fever press conference. I was in that press conference. I was there to watch that introductory thing happen, and I was cringing the entire time because who are you? Where have you been? If this was an Indianapolis Colts press conference, I get it. A Pacers press conference, I get it. But we ain't never seen you here. And when you are invited to the cookout, you do some weirdo stuff. I implore you outlets to please stop getting any and everybody just because they have a name. These women deserve better. It's very similar to how there are certain people who I never see talk about the WNBA, but Lord, let free agency come. Y'all got all the tweets in the world. People, because there are folks who just feed you info because you have the name, because you have the following. But you know what? People don't care about what y'all are saying or coming from because you're disingenuous, because you do not care about this sport. You just have the name, you just have the following, and therefore people think it will reach more folks if you guys say it or do it or tweet it or whatever. But the truth is there are so many men and women who have dedicated themselves to ensuring that the WNBA gets the accurate and fair coverage that it deserves. Promote them, talk to them, give them an opportunity. Right. Leave the Gregg Doyels at home.
Listen, well, I agree with that, but this is the last thing I'll say about this. And I would just like, to the Indianapolis Star, I would like, take us behind the curtain. Take us behind the curtain for a second and just kind of explain, like your math teacher used to say, show your work, okay? Show your work. Just tell us how you arrived at this decision and what it means going forward. Because, yeah, it sounds good. Gregg Doyel can't cover the Indiana Fever this year. And there are rumors that he's getting a 2-week, he's connected to that as a 2-week suspension.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say the Indiana Fever season is over. Let's say the 2-week suspension is over. What's your message? What's your takeaway that your columnist, your big columnist, could not cover the big event in town? See, once again, this is why I want to talk about, just look at it big picture. Don't look at it just as a women's basketball issue. It's a story issue. Your columnist, your number one, it's the hardest job at the paper, I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
Number one guy at the paper can't cover the number one story in town. So what's the message? Let's say it's a Colt. You mentioned the Colts. What if he couldn't cover the Pacers? Let's say the Pacers, we're going to talk about them next. The Pacers beat the Knicks and he couldn't write about it? Wouldn't that be strange for the fans and strange for the paper? So I'm saying, what are you trying to get at? And if this is the issue with your number one guy, I think you maybe have to question who your number one guy is.
One guy is. Yeah. We agree. We totally agree. We 100% agree. We 100% agree.
I want to know the paper's logic. I want to hear the paper's logic on that. Okay, listen, I want to ask you. Let's talk about it. I mentioned the NBA. We'll talk about the Pacers in a second. But I want to go here with these young, out-of-place, dominant teams in the Western Conference. They're out of place. Ooh. They're not supposed to be here. The Oklahoma City are the youngest team to win a playoff series. They already won. That was back in the day. That was a long time ago against the Pelicans. Okay, that's old news because then they just put a beat down on the Mavericks last night. So they haven't lost a playoff game yet. And then the Minnesota Timberwolves, they're 6-0 in the postseason. They swept the Suns. They're up 2-0 on the Nuggets. Two young teams, 22-year-old Anthony Edwards, the old man of the Thunder, is SGA, could probably in the conversation, well, he might be MVP of the league. I think Jokic should get it though, but he might finish second MVP of the league. He's only 25. Terrika, what's going on with these young teams? Because we've been told the young teams aren't supposed to be able to do this at this time of year.
I love it. I love it. And I think it's one of the things that I think that I love most is that they were built this way and the patience that it took to get them this way. When I look back over the last couple of years, it feels, and I was saying the same thing about Orlando, even though, they're no longer in the playoffs either. But I love the fact that the teams that are the teams to beat now, that are the teams that are making noise, are teams that literally got it out the mud, so to speak. They were teams that did not have large name free agents that came over and wanted to form with 3 other folks and have this super team vibe. No, through trades, through free agency that made sense, through drafts, through literally sucking for 2-3 years, 3-4 years, and figuring it out and figuring it out and figuring it out. And now they are where they need to be. That's the NBA I love. That's the NBA that I feel is entertaining now. Because when we talk about, no LeBron, no Steph, no KD, now no Kawhi, no all of these folks, well, we're still entertained because we love and we have grown to love the players and the stars that we're now seeing because we've seen them come up, come up, come up. I love to see Tyrese Haliburton. Jalen Brunson is balling. Anthony Edwards, this man is the most respectful, disrespectful man I know. And I love everything about it, right? And so
right.
I feel like that is why, why we are seeing what we're seeing, because the patience that got them there has led them to build a chemistry. They work well with each other. They know each other. It's not this constructed, supposed to be superpower that we're witnessing now. And it just makes the league so much more fun.
It does make the league more fun, and it's surprising because, like, generally, like years, you could almost write the script 5 years ago. Oklahoma City, #1 seed in the West, and you just wait for them to get toppled by a veteran team. So, like, oh yeah, young team, it's not real. That's just a regular season record, and if the Lakers. And some people probably thought that. Some people probably thought that before the playoffs started. Hey, if the Lakers get to 8 seed and they match up
and
with
they
OKC,
barely got that.
Yeah, that's a pretty good matchup if they get to 8 seed. No, they would have gotten their asses kicked by OKC. They struggled against. They kept it competitive with Denver. They would have been blown out of the gym by OKC. And so same thing with Denver. So Denver, Minnesota, defending champs, these young bucks. But Minnesota showed you last year. They played Denver tough. Yeah. They lost this year. They played them tough. They're better now than they were last year. Anthony Edwards is much better now than he was last year. Last year was pretty good. So now they're up 2-0. And Terrika, you've got the defending champs in a must-win position. They gotta win Game 3. Forget about the split in Minnesota. You've got to win Game 3 or bye-bye.
You have to.
Bye-bye.
You have to win Game 3.
Season's over. If Minnesota did this to you, and you're fortunate, because I want to get your thoughts on this. You're fortunate that, if you're from Denver's perspective, that you're playing Game 3 and you'll have Jamal Murray, because that should have been a suspension. Sorry. He should have been suspended. You're throwing multiple items from the bench you're trying to hit the ref. Like, I guess his aim was off all night. Couldn't hit a shot and couldn't hit the ref. He was trying to hit the ref. And it goes onto the court. And as guys are jostling, your own teammates, by the way, guys are jostling for rebounds, you got your heating pad on the floor. Can you imagine? Jamal, you don't know what being a villain is like if that heating pad had just slipped up under Nikola Jokic.
Ooh.
You don't know what being a villain is like in your own city if an injury, which is not, that's not a hot take. I mean, that is very possible. I was shocked that it was only a $100,000 fine and that he was not suspended for Game 3. Just inexcusable and ridiculous behavior on his part.
Completely inexcusable, completely. And it's funny because at the time, the officials were like, we didn't know where it came from. Well, it's a heating pad. it can only come from one of two places. Like it can only come from one bench or the other. And it didn't come from the Timberwolves' bench. No fans got heating pads in the stands. So where do you think that it came from? Like how was this confusing? Like now you might not have known the player who threw it, but you certainly know where it came from. So that to me in itself was an interesting dynamic, but you're absolutely right. You first of all, you're a grown man, you're an adult. So I need you to understand that you can control your emotions. You're not a 4-year-old, you're not a toddler. You know how to be an adult about handling disappointment, about handling embarrassment, because that's what you were doing. You were getting embarrassed. At one point, I think it was like a 43-18 basketball game. And the thing about it is Anthony Edwards wasn't even on the court for most of that. So that was everybody else busting your ass. That wasn't even Ant-Man. That was everybody else. You know, and it is what it is. You were 9 for 32 in the series so far. You even carried your attitude over to the press conference where you didn't speak to media. And everyone knows that it is part of your responsibility as a player to speak to media post-game, whether you're upset or not. So you're being a sore loser. You're being a child. And that's not becoming of you, because I actually have a lot of respect for Jamal Murray. When I talk about some of the up-and-coming stars in this league, when I talk about people that have carried the entertainment value, Jamal Murray's one of those players. So more is expected of you. The spotlight that you're in now, you can't do that type of stuff. You're in the spotlight now where people are looking to you to be a leader. And that's just not how leaders act. So you got to figure it out. Now, I would say, because I have respect for Denver, that they won't get swept. But if they come out the way they came out in game 1 and game 2 at home in Minnesota, Minnesota is going up 4-0 on them. I am hoping that is not the case, but I mean, my goodness, a real series. It is. I am hoping, but the way that this Denver team played at home was shocking. Okay, this is a team that has won 33 games at the crib. People don't typically come into Ball Arena and lay the smack down like Minnesota did, but they had them up by 30. Like, this is a serious situation, and it can't just be Joker. You got 20 points out of Aaron Gordon, which is great, but it can't just be him. You got to have your other stars step up, and to be able to get ran up off your own home court like that, Holly, I am floored, and I have no faith. I think they got to get one. They have to get one, but this series
depends on the one though. It's got to be, but it's got to be game. Let's say they get game 4. Okay, the dynamic has changed. Okay, you get game 4. So now what you've done is avoided a sweep. Okay, so you're down 3-0. You're down 3-0. Okay, and then you win you go back home to die. You know, you're down 3-1. And I know they've come back before. That was kind of their brand. Remember the bubble Nuggets? They were always down. They'd come back. Okay, that was who they were. That was before they were champions. Now they're champions, and they really weren't down at all last year. In their championship run, they were never down in the series.
Yeah.
And so and give them credit. I really enjoyed watching them last year, the way they played, the way they just put their mark on the game, and opponents had to adjust to them. They were never chasing anything. But now, I saw them, because I watched it, because, I'm sick that way. So I watched, when the game was out of hand, some people turned off. I'm like, no, I'm staying.
Nope. Me too. I gotta watch this.
I gotta watch this whole thing. And I saw the frustration that Jamal Murray had clearly with that tossing onto the court. That was a great symbol for what Denver was going through that entire game. So let's hear from him. Let's hear from Denver, hear from Minnesota after that game, and then we'll. I want to get to something else in your feed that I'm fascinated by. Let's hear from the Nuggets and Timberwolves.
Michael, you guys trailed by as many as 32 tonight.
We did?
Yes. Did you feel like this game got away from the players mentally, and at what point did it get away?
Well, they kicked their ass. So yeah, it got away from us. We just got beat up in our building. We got embarrassed in front of our fans. The good thing is we don't play till Friday. We have a chance to kind of get away and think about what we want to do moving forward.
I do want to just shout out Jay McDaniels, man,
Yeah.
before I get out of here. He's been phenomenal this whole playoff run and this series in particular. I think he's like a plus 51 or something, and only probably had 5 points, took 3 shots in all 2 games, and don't complain, keep guarding, keep picking up full court, and we wouldn't be the team that we are today. We wouldn't have been the team that we was in the regular season, and hopefully we can keep him out there and he keeps playing like that, man, because he's definitely the X factor of the team, and everything that he brings is we thank him so much, man. So big shout out to Jaden for sure.
I mean, for us, I think the message we want to send is that, we're extremely honored and blessed that we have this opportunity to go home up 2-0. But we're humble in this approach. We understand that we put ourselves in a great position, but as great as the position we are in, it could be very bad at the end of being on our homestand. So we just got to go out there, take care of business, do what we do, play defense at a high level, and execute even at a higher level, because the defending champions, you can't give them a minute of slippage at all in the game. So we got some things to work on, things to tighten up on practice, and we got 3 days to really work on our game and work on our game plan. So to the fans, your support is super important for us to find different ways and to get that energy Friday night and Sunday. So definitely come out and support.
So look, I'm gonna say some nice things, and I'm gonna get to this feed item that just trips me out from you. Okay. So they're smart. They're shouting out the role players. Mm-hmm. They're smart. They're talking about the defending champs. We ain't talking trash. It's 2-0. We got to win 2 more games. We understand that this team is capable of winning 4 games. And they could easily beat us 4 games to 2. We understand they can win 4 in a row. So they're smart with that. Smart with saying we're gonna be humble. Okay, all good stuff. But Terrika says Rudy Gobert, who didn't play in game 2, we learned he's Defensive Player of the Year, 4-time defense. Oh, look at the look on your face. What? The league is soft. What? Please explain. We were saying all these great things about the Timberwolves. Now you're going in on Rudy Gobert. What's up?
So, couple of things. Number one, I 100% believe that Rudy Gobert brings a defensive energy to this Minnesota Timberwolves teams that they have truly embraced and embodied. And you could see that because we just talked about how they basically held Denver to like 29 and 83 shooting. Like that is a defensive like performance. And to do that without Rudy Gobert, who was back in Minnesota because his son was being born, amazing, right? But y'all know, and I know, that Victor Wembanyama should have won Defensive Player of the Year.
What?
Why did you not want to give the rookie a Defensive Player of the Year award? Were you afraid to step outside the box and do something different? Let me tell you, there are two other people in this league who have won Defensive Player of the Year 4 times: Dikembe Mutombo and Ben Wallace. You putting Rudy Gobert in the conversation with them? You're absolutely not putting Rudy Gobert in the conversation with them. Where has this league gone that Rudy Gobert is a 4-time Defensive Player of the Year? This is not to say he's not an elite defender. This is not to say he can't play defense or don't bring a defensive energy. But my goodness, is this where we are? Is this where we are, NBA? We got to do better.
I agree.
We got to do better.
Listen, I agree. I agree. The only disagreement I have with you, look, like Rudy Gobert, I don't see a Defensive Player of the Year as a guy like, oh, that's a lockdown guy. That's the guy that you won't go at, you'll avoid, he changes everything that you do. Okay, all that stuff. It's not, and for a while, like the NBA has really had a hard time with this, because if you look at the 4-time winners, the 3 and 4-time winners, they're all centers, and a lot of people just look at, oh, he blocked a bunch of shots. So no, that's not what it is. Give some love to my man Sidney Moncrief down there, a 6'3", 6'4" guard who can lock you up on the perimeter. Shout out Sidney Moncrief. And even Kawhi Leonard. Kawhi Leonard is 6'7", 6'8", able to defend multiple guys. That's what I'm thinking of. Dennis Rodman, those kind of guys. Yeah. But Rudy Gobert, I don't know. And honestly, I'm not even sure about Ben Wallace either as a 4-time
Oh,
winner.
come on out, Holly. Come on out. Come on
okay,
out. We not gonna do that. We
Bring the
not gonna do
Detroit out.
that.
Bring the Detroit out. Bring it out.
This was a very professional show until you start talking foolishness like that.
Look, and here's the crazy thing. And here's the other crazy thing. I disagree with what you said. Victor Wembanyama's team is going to the lottery again. They won. And so defense, what, huh? I mean, like, okay, his individual defense is fine.
This is an individual award. This is an individual award. This isn't a team
Yeah, it is.
award.
Okay, how about this, Terrika? Has there ever been an MVP on a lottery team? On a lottery team? That's an individual award too.
I agree.
You don't get an MVP.
I actually agree, but I think that there's a difference between an MVP category and a Defensive Player of the Year category. How many points did you score on me? How many times did I lock you down? What was your averages when I played you? I have this conversation in the WNBA all the time because I think, for example, Natasha Cloud is an elite defender and guards don't get it out the mud on her, but she hasn't always had, you know, a team that had the most winningest record in those seasons. So I understand where you're going, but I think to be MVP, you're the most valuable player. That means you got it all the way around. Defensive Player of the Year, I only got to that means I only needed to do one thing well, and that was
but
defend.
my team, I got to help my team though. I'm a team player.
You're right. I get it. But Wemby held it down defensively this year, and I think they just was scared for that reason to give Wemby the award because not only was he a rookie and won Rookie of the Year, but he plays for San Antonio. So you know, it was a little. I think it was a little bias there.
Unanimous Rookie of the Year. Couple more things before I let you go. I know you're a woman with things to do, and I don't want to take too much of your time. So a couple more things, then I'm gonna let you get out of here. So Knicks, Pacers, round 2. I want to get to this. Game one, very interesting down the stretch. And Terrika, where have we seen this before? So the Pacers have the ball. And they're looking to make a move, and here comes Miles Turner, and he sets a screen. He thinks it's a good screen. Offensive foul, illegal screen. We're going the other way. And the NBA says that was a correct call, by the way.
Yep. And this is it's giving Iowa UConn.
Yeah.
Is it not?
What, did you think it was the right call?
I think it was an appropriate, let me rephrase that. I think it was the right call. I do think that he was moving. I do believe it was an illegal screen. The same way that Aaliyah Edwards was a moving screen. So it's not necessarily whether the call was right or wrong. It's the appropriateness of making that call in that moment. I think that's where I struggle. I want the game to be called right and I want the game to be called fair, but I also want the game to be decided by the players. And it's tough to say that the game is decided by the players when those very minor ticky-tack kind of, it's 15 seconds left on the clock.
The game was decided by the players. You can't do that.
It's just,
hey, damn, you can't do that.
I hate that the stripes get in the way at times, but I also agree that you have to put yourself in the position as a team to not let it come down to the very final seconds of a game in which the stripes need to make a decision that can impact the game. So Miles Turner took accountability. He's like, hey, you know what? I got to be better. We shouldn't have been in a position where it mattered. And I agree with that. But I hate those calls in those moments. Like, let them play, man. Just let them play.
Yeah, let them play. And so in this fight, because I go round 2 heavyweight fight, I'm expecting a 7-game series. I'll be disappointed if it's not 7 games. I love 7-game series. Great players, evenly matched. But in this 7-game series, I need the challenger because I'm going to make, because they're the higher seed, I'm going to make the Knicks the contender in this case, the champ. I'm going to make them the champ. So let's say Jalen Brunson is the champ. I'm going to need his counterpart, the guy who's trying to win the belt, to throw some more punches Tyrese Haliburton, what's up, man? 6 points. He had 6 points in game 1. Now, this is an all-star player, the best player on the Indiana Pacers. Ooh, if this is going to be a 7-game series, and he really hasn't played, he hasn't been playing great basketball. If you look at his numbers post-all-star break, well, I mean, good. The team is good. He handled business against the Milwaukee Bucks, but I want to see more from him, Terrika, to get us to a 7-game series.
Yeah, I would agree with you there, but I also say that I think this speaks to the volume of play around his supporting cast in Indiana, that he hasn't necessarily played his best basketball, and yet this team has been able to knock out a depleted and really needed to get their life together Milwaukee Bucks team, and now really put up a fight up until the very last final seconds against the Knicks, who were playing well and played well coming into this game. Jalen Brunson is a whole different conversation. Say what you will about him. The boy can ball. 40-point performances. Like, he's doing what stars are supposed to do. And if this team, because we're going to talk about this in a second, but if this team had a healthy Julius Randle, this is a completely different conversation. But I say that again to say that I think that the Pacers are in a good place, because if you can get that kind of performance out of your team without Tyrese Haliburton really going off, then you're in a good position, but he's got to show up. He just got to show up.
Who you like in this series?
I actually like the Pacers in this series, believe it or not. I like the Pacers in the series, but I agree with you that they're going 7 games, and not necessarily because I don't think that the Knicks are a good team. And I really just feel that Jalen Brunson won't be able to do it all the entire series. Josh Hart is going to have to get them some.
Did I just hear you say you don't think the Knicks are a good team? Did I hear you say that?
No. I said it's not that I don't think that they are a good team. I absolutely think the Knicks are a good team. I just also think that he's going to have to continually get help from someone else. And I know, but I'm saying I think that he's going to need assistance from someone else every single game. And I don't know who that is from game to game, because the other players that are assisting him are inconsistent. Sometimes it's Josh Hart, sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's Hartenstein, sometimes it's not. I don't know who it's going to be. I know what I'm getting out of that man. I know that man gonna give me 40. I know that. We ain't worried about him. But you can see even in the matchup. Even in the matchup against the Sixers, did you not see some times where there were breakdowns, not only defensively, but just who was going to be the support for Jalen Brunson? You saw that against the Sixers, and they were unhealthy. We can't afford to see that against the Pacers.
Terrika, I'm not going to do anything with this information. I'm just asking for a friend. You think Jalen Brunson's going to get 40? I'm just asking.
Yeah, I do. I think Jalen Brunson going to get 40 again. Yeah.
You do?
Yeah.
My bets. My bets. Okay. All right. Thank you.
He'll drop 40 again. That's what he do.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Just made a little bit of money. Do the show, make a little extra money. Thank you very much. I love it. And look, I asked you if Knicks Pacers, I talked about the 7-game series, how I want to see that. I'll say this briefly. If Derrick White keeps playing like he's playing for the Celtics, I'll say Celtics in 3. They won't even go 4 games. I mean, it's so hot. Like, Derrick White is playing incredible basketball, and he's always been a good player. Like, he was a good player with the Spurs, and Celtics traded for him. I mean, just a good role player. That's the way I looked at him. And I used to joke. Now, this is how much he's improved. Okay. I used to joke with Natalie, because I was always trying to get Jonathan Kuminga from the Warriors. I'm like, all right, Natalie, how can we do this? How can we get Kuminga to Boston? How about for Derrick White? And that was like a couple years ago, and it seemed plausible. A couple years ago, Derrick White for Kuminga, you getting the steal, you get upside. Derrick White, the difference is that picture, because he had hair then. His hairline was jacked up. His hairline was jacked up. And so he got rid of my kind of guy. See, Gary, this is what I talked about a couple weeks ago. Those guys who got to move on. They don't know it. They don't know that it's time to just come down to here. Since he shaved his head, he's a different guy. Like last night, his last few games, he looks like, now think about it, on a team with Jalen Brown and a team with Jason Tatum, Drew Holiday, he looks like their best player the last few games. He's just playing great. So just want to give him a shout out. And the last thing I want to say, Terrika, before I let you go, have I introduced you? Have you heard from my soulmate? I don't think I've ever told you who my soulmate is.
Who's your soulmate? I feel like I know.
All right, don't tell my wife that I said this.
Okay.
There's somebody else. There's somebody else who is a soulmate. Just our secret. And I want you, the reason this person is my soulmate is because they say things that I think. They say things that I think. It's amazing. I want you to listen to my soulmate talking about Jimmy Butler and the Miami Heat. Check it out.
Until you change the way you go about doing the things that are necessary to win, whatever they are, those things you're doing to try to win, if they aren't working, must change. Who moves the needle the most, on our team is Jimmy. Jimmy moves the needle the most. He's an incredible player. And what I said at the beginning about change is he's got to give it some thought himself. For him to say that, I thought, is that Jimmy trolling or is that Jimmy serious? If you're not on the court playing against Boston or on the court playing against the New York Knicks, you should keep your mouth shut in your criticism of those teams.
So when Jimmy approaches July 7th for an extension, what will the Miami Heat's response be at that date that his extension window opens?
Well, if he requests, we can either accept or we can say we're going to think about it.
Ha! Pat Riley. See, my favorite part, Terrika, is when he's talking about Jimmy Butler. Because Jimmy Butler, I was so annoyed when Jimmy Butler said, hey, if I was playing, Boston would be at home and New York would be at home, and I don't care about who's Josh Hart to me and all this stuff. Dude, you never play. If you were playing, you ain't never out there. Hey, look, that's what Pat Riley is saying. Hey, you might get an extension, but you got to do we need you available. He's rugged when he's out there, but he hasn't been out there enough. The most he's played with the Miami Heat in the regular season, I think it's like 65 games. Not good enough, baby.
The best ability is availability. And if you don't have availability, there's really nothing that you can say. And we don't really want to hear about what woulda, coulda, shoulda happened if I had been whatever. And there ain't too much that Pat Riley can say anyway that I'm gonna disagree with. It ain't too much because Pat Riley is that guy. But he basically like, Jimmy, you talking too much. And if you trolling, that's cool. But if you serious, bruh, stop it. Big Face Coffee, get more of it, because clearly whatever it is that you drinking, it got you tripping right now. If you talking crap about a team you couldn't even be healthy enough to face.
Well, I don't know, Terrika. There was something. You saw that video, that original video. He had something in his cup. I wasn't sure what was in that cup. Very special cocktail. Anyway, my friend, good to see you. We'll have drinks. We'll have drinks sometime soon and talk about all these issues that you brought up.
We'll drink what Jimmy's drinking.
I got to get you straight on this Defensive Player of the Year thing, though. I don't know. I don't know about that. I don't know about your comments there.
We gonna drink what Jimmy's drinking.
Otherwise, great stuff. Great stuff as usual. Good to see you, Terrika.
Likewise. I'll see you next time.
All right. Hey, thank you for watching Brother from Another. If you haven't hit that subscribe button, go ahead and do that now. Don't forget, you can catch us
3 to 4 weekdays on PeacockTV.com and on Sirius XM Channel 85.